What's up, Bulldogs? Alright, so a lot of you have been asking me my opinion on the whole US elections, Trump versus Biden. Who did I vote for? What do I think of what's happened with the accusations of election fraud? How does this affect your future? So I'm going to cover all of that in this video, and I'm just going to give you my opinion on this and how to really look at this from a Stoic perspective. If you guys are just joining me for the first time, I'm John from BulldogMindset.com. On this channel, I teach you how to be a man. I teach you how to build financial independence, how to get the physique you want, how to get the girls you want, and how to go from the victim mindset to the Bulldog mindset. If that sounds like something that you are about, click the subscribe button. If you've already been here for a while, smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. And if you haven't already taken the Bulldog quiz, go up here in the corner, take the quiz. It's 10 questions. It'll give you your Bulldog score. There's a link in the description as well, guys. So, all right. So first of all, let's just start with the biggest question that most of you have, which is, who did I personally vote for? Now, I am going to answer this question, unlike a lot of YouTubers out there, but I am going to make you wait a minute while I explain some background before I just give you an answer and you upvote or downvote and act like a total fucking idiot. So here's the deal. So my political persuasion, like what political philosophy do I subscribe to? Well, it's the only rational one, which is libertarian. Okay, with a lowercase L, not a capital L, not the official Libertarian Party. Okay, so what I believe in is individual rights, individual freedom above all else. It probably doesn't surprise a lot of you guys because my highest value in life, if you've been following me for any time, is freedom. It's the one thing that, and that's what I teach you guys how to do, by the way, on this channel, okay? As teaching you to become a man, it is about becoming your own sovereign, is self-sovereignty, right? When I'm teaching you about the mindset, about the Bulldog mindset, it's all about self-sovereignty. Stoic, right? This whole Stoic philosophy, it's all about self-sovereignty. It's about controlling the things that you can control and not allowing fate and outside circumstances to affect you as much as they affect other people. That's where you have the true mastery of yourself and sovereignty. So with that said, when I look at politics and I look at elections and I look at voting, what I look at is which candidate is going to produce the most sovereignty, but I also look at pragmatism. Right? So when I weigh it out, okay, I'm not like a huge major Trump fan, but I like a lot of what he's done. I like the fact that he is bold, that he's not politically correct, that he'll say what he wants to say, that he will go forth and actually present a more masculine view of the world, which I like. What I dislike about Trump is I dislike how he lacks tact, unfortunately. I feel like he could have the exact same viewpoints and he could have the exact same policies, which I would agree with to a large degree. I don't agree with his fiduciary policy. His monetary policy is pretty much trash, okay, just to be honest with you, because he's all about printing up the money as opposed to having a much more fiscally conservative approach. Okay, so that's no good. I don't like that economic principle. The Keynesian economics, no good. Okay, so with that said, like I said, I like a lot of things that he has to say, a lot of things that he does, but I dislike that part of it. I feel like he could be a lot more successful and a lot more effective if he just had a little bit more tact. Again, you can still say the same things. It's just how you say them, being a little bit more ingratiating to the other side. There's a balance to this. But again, who am I to say, he's been effective at what he's done. He's been more successful than me in life, but that's just my perspective. Okay. On the other hand, on the other side, when you look at Biden, no one's really voting for Biden. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, he's got a lot of issues. There's so much skeletons in his closet. He's already run for a presidential campaign before. He's already run for president, and he failed. A lot of it was because he plagiarized other people's speeches. There's so many things that I could say. He just doesn't represent anything. Okay, what he represents is not Trump, and unfortunately, that's what the choice came down to. But his party has gone pretty far left in the socialist zone. Okay, and that to me is the biggest ill. So, while a lot of people are voting anti-Trump, I voted anti-Biden. Okay, so I voted Trump from a pragmatic viewpoint. Again, if there was a libertarian candidate who I thought actually had a shot at winning, I would vote for the libertarian candidate, obviously. But in the case of, again, I say this all the time, beginning pragmatism, end in pragmatism, it makes sense to vote for Trump. And again, like I said, I am more in his camp than not, right? I just don't like some of his approaches, and I don't like some of his policies. But, I'm my own man, right? I'm going to decide those things. Again, all of my viewpoints come from a libertarian perspective, being what is my biggest concern? Personal freedom, okay, which I've seen violated here in this year by mask mandates, by shutdowns and lockdowns, all those things, which the president did support, okay, which almost every political organization supported, except for maybe the governor of South Dakota, okay, respect to her, all right, and then the second thing is the financial aspect of things, which I do not believe in that economic system of printing up money, of debt and whatnot. I think fiscal conservatism is really important, but you know what, we're so far down that path, it seems. So yeah, to sum it up, I voted for Trump, and that's why I voted for Trump. Mostly anti-Biden. Okay. Again, not to say that I don't like a lot of things that Trump says and does. I have. So, but I don't like any part of Biden at all, or what he represents, and I feel like that's highly destructive. Now, with that said, okay, let's move on to the next topic, because I think I've beaten a dead horse here, but I want you guys to understand my perspective on it. Okay, so the next thing comes down to this whole election fraud thing and fake ballots and all this stuff. Where do I stand on that? It's hard to know what's going on. It does seem pretty fishy to me. Is it fishy enough that it's going to matter? I think that it's good to figure this out, because that system is a system that American people are relying on. I certainly wouldn't put it past people who clearly state that the ends justifies the means, okay, to do something that is in concordance with the ends justifying the means. So I think it's really important to see that out, to fight the battle, regardless of how it comes out, just to make sure that it's being checked, right? All these things need to be checked for the sake of having the security that things are checked, because the more that someone could potentially get away with something, and again, I don't know where it sits, okay? I don't know where it sits. It seems pretty fishy to me, I'll be honest with you, from my perspective, but I don't know, okay? But if someone thinks that they can get away with things, if they're not checked in that way, it's not a good thing. Now, if I had my druthers, okay, if everyone was thinking about, let's make elections as secure as possible, let's make them as fair and truthful as possible, where there cannot be election fraud, it's a pretty simple system. I think that perhaps on both sides, they don't want a completely fair election. That's what I would say, because we're not doing this. So what makes sense with the technology that we have today, what makes sense to me from a logical perspective, is that all of the voting is electronic, in person. And just like when you try to enter the U.S. border, it's the same level of security. So you have to scan your fingerprints, okay, to vote. And then you have to scan a passport or driver's license, some kind of form of identification to prove that you are who you are. It should be more difficult to vote than to fly in an airplane, because it's a bigger decision. All right, and then they should have a camera that is taking a picture of your face, so they can see, okay, this is the person that actually showed up, that we've got some evidence of that. And there should be a camera rolling all the time at the voting booth, pointing at you, and then the screen, the touch screen, to show clearly what you're touching on the touch screen, and that should all be recorded. Okay, and then what should happen is maybe 1 out of every 100,000 vote sessions should be audited by alternating between the parties, or each party gets 1 out of 100,000, just to make sure to check it. Okay, maybe it's 1 out of 10,000. I don't know, so some number that makes sense, and then that would ensure that it's completely legit. And if anyone had any kind of argument saying, oh no, the voting isn't legitimate, there's, something was faked or something wasn't true, they could actually go back through the hours of footage and verify every single vote to a large enough margin of a degree to randomly to figure out that there's no way that it could possibly be rigged. And if it was, it couldn't actually sway an election in any way. To me, that's the most logical, sensible thing. And the fact that we're not doing that is suspect on both sides. It doesn't make any sense why we're not doing something like that. That's, and again, this is me being someone who's not an expert in this, coming up with a solution that seems pretty damn obvious to me. Okay, so next, let's get into the topic of what happens if Biden wins, if he is president, and let's say that maybe the Senate goes to the Democrats as well. What happens? What do I do in that case? Do I flee the country? What's going on? Well, it's not an ideal scenario, okay? But here's the deal. The rules to the game may change, and a lot of people get upset when the rules of the game change. I don't, because when the rules of the game change, they change for everyone, okay? And so there are certain things and ways I'm living my life that are profitable with the current setup and the current rules to the game. If the rules to the game change, I will simply modify my behavior and I will adapt to the new rules to be able to maximize my wins with the new rules. See, a lot of other people won't adapt, and so that will actually give me a chance to be ahead, right? So this is sort of what happens in society, in life in general, especially in careers, is you have the dinosaurs, right? You have people who don't want to adapt and change to the rules. Because here's the thing, from a Stoic perspective, right? Think about this. Who's the president of the United States? Is that in my control? No, it's not in my control. Is it in my control whether the Senate is Democrat or Republican? Not in my control. Is it in my control whether or not certain laws are passed, whether lockdowns happen, whether all of these things happen that I happen to personally disagree with, where we become more socialist, where taxes raise to a higher degree? It's not within my control. What is in my control is how I play the game according to these new rules that were created. Now, I can whine and complain and say these rules aren't fair, say I don't like these rules, and that's fine. And I could have a valid argument, but it doesn't change anything. Okay, it doesn't change anything, and it doesn't serve any purpose. It doesn't help me in any way. So the logical, rational, pragmatic perspective here is to say, okay, because the rules are changing, and I know that most people are not adaptable to changes, I actually have an advantage here. Even if the tax rates go up, I still have an advantage here because everyone will be playing with this new, on this new playing field, right? It'll actually level down some people that have been taking advantage of the tax system and now they can't, who are higher up in the rung than me. And so it'll actually make it so that I have more of an opportunity to reach those people or to take advantage of that situation. Even though overall it will hurt me. You see what I'm saying? It's all relative. Okay, so I can adapt. I can figure out how to work around these things. I can figure out what is advantageous, or maybe there's nothing advantageous for me, and my best strategy is to be the hedgehog, is to be the best, keeping my shit together and not losing shit and riding it out for the next 4 years or 8 years or however long it takes, so that I'm just not losing stuff while other people are going apeshit and they're taking all these risks where the deck is stacked against them and they're losing, right? So there's a lot of different ways that I could play this game and that you could play this game depending on how the rules are. What you have to do, though, is you have to personally divest yourself emotionally from what's happening in society that you can't control, in anything that you can control. Again, I'm teaching you some very Stoic principles here because this is the way to react, okay? I have my opinion of what I would like to happen, but it doesn't matter if it happens or not. I'm still going to adapt to that game. And that's what you need to be really thinking about is don't freak out. Don't worry. Like, most of the stuff is beyond your control anyway. All of it's beyond your control. So what can you specifically do? Okay, and I'll give you one last perspective here, which is this. And by the way, guys, before I give you this last perspective, if you haven't already, go ahead and check out the Bulldog Mindset membership. I've got a link in the cards here for $7 for the first month. There's also a link in the description below. If you want to get with a like-minded group of guys that are practicing Stoic philosophy, that aren't freaking out about the election and all this stuff, that are figuring out how to build their businesses, figuring out how to set themselves up for the future, how to insulate themselves from adversity that is imposed upon them and from fate and fortune, and improving themselves as men, go join. I've got a lot of video topics on that. I teach you how to build a business. I teach you how to get fit, how to get good with women, how to do all the things that you want to achieve as a man, and how to have the right mindset. What I'm talking about here, that Stoic mindset. Plus we have live Q&As, all kinds of stuff there. Go check it out, okay? Now, with that said, here's the last thing to think about in terms of this, all right? Which is this, is that regardless of what's happening politically, and even with taxes and even with laws and whatnot, ultimately, most of your life, okay, most of the success that you have or you don't have in life is due to you. And you need to remember that. And you need to remember that during hard times, people have become successful. During good times, people have become successful, right? Shout out to my friend, my buddy, Brandon Carter, who keeps on posting this on Instagram, who's been posting this for a long time. He's been talking about this. He's been saying it doesn't matter who gets elected president, okay? What matters is what you do. And that's the final message I'd like to leave you guys with, is stop worrying about this stuff, okay? I mean, obviously takes the approach that I told you about from a Stoic perspective and learn how to play the game as effectively as possible based on the new rules, but also realize that 90% of the success in your life is not going to be affected by this at all. These rules to the game that may be changing, they really don't affect your success on a deep level, right? If you're trying to build a business right now, like, for example, let's take the tax rate, okay? The tax rate thing at the federal level will potentially go from 36% to 39% for income over $400,000. Now, I make over $400,000, so I don't like that, but I'm only going to get taxed an extra 4% or whatever, 5%, whatever it ends up being, on money I make over $400,000, which isn't a huge amount of money. It's not a huge deal. It's not a big deal. I'd save more money by moving out of California. That could be an option, just to move out of California. But what I'm saying is that all these things that we think are going to greatly affect us, they're really not. They're not from our day-to-day life. So stop worrying about this. Stop fretting about this, and start, if you're trying to build a business, if you're trying to get started, you're trying to up your career, you're trying to get in shape, how does it affect that? How does it affect your success with women? How does it affect you growing and becoming a man? Okay? It doesn't affect most of the things that are important in your life. It affects a very small portion of your life. And again, adapt to those rules of the game and learn how to master them. And sometimes it's going to be a net negative for you. That's fine. But it really doesn't affect you as much as you think. So you got to keep that mind frame, and you got to keep yourself from going down the dish. You can't be like, oh, the world is so bad, things are going so horrible, okay? And then throw away your opportunities because you're sad and depressed. Instead, you got to be like, hey, all this shit, it doesn't matter. It's just noise. And I'm just going to stay on the mission, stay focused as a man, and do what I need to do.